Welcome to our Lunch in the Garden program for today. My name is David Chinnery. I work here at Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I'm very glad to have you all here today. It started out nice this morning. I thought, uh-oh, nobody's going to be inside at noon, and then the rainstorm came along just as planned, because then that makes people go in the house and they'll turn on their Zoom. So we're very glad you're here today. We have about 34 people so far, and we're happy to have you along. Just a little announcement, we have two more of our programs coming up on following Wednesdays. Wednesday's the 17th, which is next week. Lorraine Ferguson is going to be talking about shore gardening. So if you know anybody that lives near a body of water, Lorraine lives on a lake out in rural Rensselaer County, and she's going to talk about gardening along the edge of a lake or a pond. So that'll be really kind of interesting and kind of a unique subject. And then the following Wednesday is our finale, Wednesday, the 24th of April. We're going to have Marie Henkel-Wiebolt and Bob Wiebolt. They do go together. And their topic is Aging with the Garden, Green Thumbs Never Die. And as I've said before, that's got to be, I guess, the most compelling title we have here in our series. So that'll be on Wednesday, April 24th at noon. And if you haven't gotten our email, you can always register on the Cornell Cooperative Extension website. Just type in CCE Rensselaer to a search browser, and you can go to the events section of the website and sign up for the webinars. So again, we're happy to have you here today. And our speaker is Teresa Murphy. Teresa is a Master Gardener here with Cornell Cooperative Extension. She's been a Master Gardener since 2010, and she has a special interest in things with wings, I guess I'll say. She's involved in the Audubon group locally and has been very involved with that group for many years. And today she's going to be talking about attracting and raising butterflies. So thank you, Teresa, for being here.
You're welcome.
Turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, everybody. It's a good day for a webinar on something nice to look at, butterflies. I started this by accident, kind of, and I'll explain it as I go along, but I just, like I said, I noticed butterflies landing and laying eggs on my parsley. So that's what got me started with this. So let me just start the program. This butterfly right here, the black swallowtail, is on a mandevilla plant I had on my deck. So they like many different types of plants, and native, tropical, like annuals and perennials. Okay. When I started noticing that the butterflies were landing on this pot, I had parsley. The next year I decided to make a whole thing of parsley. And I actually had this garden bed, plastic bed, and I put somebody had this thing to put on top, and I put tooling on it. And if you notice, you can see there are the butterflies that have hatched in this that I had. This was years ago. They are about 1, 2, if you look along, there's quite a few of them in there. So that worked good. That was like the second year. So that worked out really great. I was excited. Then I ended up getting what's a veggie pod. This is just one I bought. It's a planter. It actually is on legs too. And I decided to start using that. It was a little easier than the tooling. You could use different types of containers. But why I like that is after they started to like lay eggs, or if it was bad weather, I could leave that on top and the butterflies would be protected, or the eggs and the caterpillars would be protected. But it would get sun and rain in it too. So that is just another example of what you can use. This shows that when you opened it, I had tons of parsley there. I even put a little covering on top and bungeed it to make it not too hot sometimes, because this is in direct sun on my deck. So, I did that to make it not overly hot for them. But I would open it up during the daytime, because that's when the butterflies will come in to lay the eggs. So this shows the actual caterpillar that started to grow from the egg. And They start off really small, a little black thing, which I'll show you in a bit, but that's what came on this, it's trying to crawl out, and that's why I also use that new container to keep them from crawling out, because sometimes they will come out and fall out, and I don't want them to get eaten or whatever. So that's why I try to cover it with something. Okay, so this is the adult black swallowtail that I've been having laying the eggs over the years on parsley. And like I said, I leave the planter on during the daytime to allow egg laying and then cover it at night. Now this is a picture, it's not mine, but this is a picture of the eggs. And let's see, got my thing in the way. The female, it says, will lay from 200 to 430 pale yellow eggs. And usually the top side of the plant, and it says at a rate of 30 to 50 per day. And the size of a pinhead are smaller. But I actually was sitting outside one day in my deck room, and I looked out where I had the parsley plant in that container, and it was up on legs. And I actually watched the swallowtail lay an egg, and I could see the egg after. It was really cool. So it's really interesting to watch. The eggs will turn a dark gray just before they hatch, and that takes about 10 to 13 days. Okay. I want to get rid of this thing in my face. Okay. They lay the eggs on in the carrot family, which is, like I said, parsley, which I've been using. I noticed it on dill, fennel, and carrot, the greenery of carrot. They also like Queen Anne's lace and common rue. So if you have any of those plants, you can check it out. And I know common rue, really, another Master Gardener had a bunch of that and tons of butterflies on it and caterpillars. So those are some really good plants to use. Oops, come on. Why isn't it working? Okay. When the eggs hatch and they hatch, the larvae start eating the host plant. Now, if you see, the eggs, the larvae here look like black and white. They don't look anything, they change. But the reason they also look like this is, let me go back, is it's a defense that they look like basically poop. So birds and other prey would just think that's all it is. So it is a protective mechanism. So at first you'll see these little tiny, they'll be really tiny, but they start to get bigger. And this is on my parsley plant. And they grow 2,700 times their original size in 7 to 10 days. So you will actually see them getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's before they become a pupa chrysalis. They're black, green with yellow spots. That's one way to tell that's the black swallowtail. Again, that's one. You can see there's a little egg down below the caterpillar. That's the one egg that was originally yellow that has changed to the blackish gray. Fully grown caterpillar finds a place to pupate. This was a picture I got somewhere, and you notice that it's hooked, there's like a little string near its head attached to that piece of wood stem. That is what helps them adhere to the tree or the branch or whatever. And it also adhere at the edge by their tail. And what you'll notice is that they start getting fatter, which means they're starting to work to go into the, pupate into the chrysalis. So they'll start swelling and getting bigger. And when they're ready, about 24 hours later after attaching, because it does not take that long for them to do from the caterpillar to the chrysalis, it'll wiggle its outer skin off and it exposes the chrysalis beneath. And it'll either be green, let me move this. The chrysalis will either be green or brown, depending on the color of the surroundings, because they like to camouflage themselves, like I said. So here, this was my parsley. So here you can see that it turned green on the left side, upper left, and on the bottom right, that's another chrysalis, and that adhered to one of the arms or legs of the container I had them in, with that little piece of attached like string or to adhere to the stick. So there's different ways. I will see them in my parsley or they'll be on the side. You know, you never know. Okay, wait a minute. It's not cooperating. Okay. The metamorphosis, it begins as a caterpillar's body fluids break down and resemble to form an adult butterfly. Here you're seeing, this is one that had, whoops, it went too far. Wait a minute. This is one that actually hatched in my container. This process takes about 10 days. So, you know, but you get near 10 days, you want to start keeping an eye on it. Unfortunately, I've never seen it go from the chrysalis to coming out. I haven't seen that. It always would be like the next day it just was there. So you're really, and it seems to happen at night. That's what I think they do more at night, again, as a defense mechanism. So they're not out there for like birds to eat. It's another protection. So you might want to get up at night and check it out, make sure, see if they're doing anything near 10 days. But they're really beautiful. I just love having them. And just some facts on, this is kind of interesting, on the butterfly. The process of a butterfly emerging from the chrysalis is called eclosion, and eclosion is controlled by hormones. And they release the hormones to soften the chrysalis, and it triggers the central nervous system to begin the movements needed to complete the emergence process. After the chrysalis has been softened and becomes transparent, the butterfly, you'll see more of the butterfly look itself at that point. The butterfly will push through first with its legs, and it removes a triangular piece covering its eyes and proboscis. And then they crawl out the rest of the way, and then they will expose in their abdomen and wings. They hang upside down from the chrysalis on a nearby surface, completing the emergence process. So it takes a little bit of time, but it's interesting how it's all hormones that get this process changing from the caterpillar into the butterfly. Okay, the wings will appear folded and crinkled, and the butterfly must begin the process of expanding and drying its wings so it can fly. A substance called meconium is pumped into the venation structures of the wings by movement and gravity. And you'll notice they'll sit there and they'll kind of like, their wings will start to get a little more stretched out and fluff, you know, getting more where they can start to fly. Once they fully expanded, the meconium will become back into the body of the butterfly, which that's kind of interesting that it does how it does that. There's still small amounts in the vein that the wings will dry and harden, giving the wings a more sturdy structure so they can fly. And it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours for a butterfly's wings to complete, and according to their size. After the wings have dried, but before the butterfly take flight, it will at least dispel the excess meconium from its body. I have watched it when it opened, you know, when it was hatched, and it was just sitting there inside the container. That it would take about that time, 30 minutes, maybe, you know, about up to 2, like it said, and it just slowly is opening up, and then eventually it will take off. It did land, most of the time they land at another one of my outdoors perennial plants, you know, so they are looking for something to land on, because right away they want to start getting nutrients and nectar so they can start to look at mating and reproducing. Just some more things. This is a difference of a black swallowtail and a spice bush swallowtail. You'll notice it's because a color swatch is missing an orange spot on the spice bush, around where that circle is. And if you look at the black swallowtail on the left, you'll see there's that swishy orange spot, you know. So that's different ways. And you can see some of their there's some other changes a bit, but they kind, that's a one difference. Sometimes they're hard to disseminate, but that's another way you can tell on that. Okay, these are some other butterflies I'll show you. Monarch, these are the eggs and the caterpillar. Now the monarch has a yellow, white, and black bands. It's similar looking to the black swallowtail, but the black swallowtail has more of the yellow spots. So they're a little different looking. The monarch also has these long antennas on both ends. That also is to kind of confuse a bird or something that it doesn't know where the head is or thinks it's got two heads. So it does a lot of things to confuse predators. And if you look on the right side, that is showing the native plant milkweed, which they love to have. They also will go on, which I have, swamp milkweed and native butterfly weed. So those are all native plants. If you want something that's less invasive than native butterfly milkweed, the swamp milkweed doesn't take over a garden as much, and you still will get the monarch eggs on that and the native butterfly weed. And here on the underline, now the monarchs lay the eggs underneath. The black swallowtail lays the eggs on top of the leaf. So that's a difference too. But underneath, you can see the eggs are whitish, and then some of them have already emerged from the eggs and are little tiny caterpillars. Oops, wait a minute. Okay, now this is a viceroy caterpillar butterfly, and its host plants are willow, cottonwood, and poplar. So it tends to go towards more of the some of those type of plants. Now they look like the monarch, but there's a way to tell the difference. Also on the right, it says, where I had mentioned this, what does the larva resemble to you? It looks like poop. So it could be like, looks like bird poop. So again, predators, birds primarily will think that's what it is and not go and eat it. So they do change their looks as they get larger and go over time, the stages of the actual caterpillar. All right, here's a way to tell the difference between the monarch and the viceroy. Okay, on the left is the monarch, on the right's the viceroy. Black lines that appear across the hind wings on viceroys are not on monarchs. If you look on the right, you see this line, line at the bottom wings. That's one way that's how you can tell the difference. Also, you won't see that line at the bottom with the monarch. Another thing is the viceroys are 2.5 to 3.5 inches in diameter, whereas monarchs are bigger. They're 3.5 to 5 inches. So that's another way to tell. Also, though, their floating pattern, monarchs have more of a floating pattern, whereas following the flap guide rhythm. So they kind of float, if you can see me, and then they'll flap. Viceroys fly more quickly and more erratic, so can make it harder to take pictures of them too. But that's one way you can tell the difference in those also. Okay, now this is the tiger swallowtail. And I've seen a lot of these around too. Unfortunately, I was telling David, last year I didn't see a lot of any of these butterflies. It was unusual. I would get all of these I'm showing you in my backyard the past 5 years or more, but the last year or two, there's been a lot less, but that has a lot to do with the environment and climate and all. So unfortunately, it's affecting the amount. And this is another reason we want to make sure we have a lot of native plants to help them to, come here and multiply and raise their young. So the tiger swallowtail, okay, the plants it likes are wild cherry, birch, aspen, sometimes American ash, mountain ash, and showy mountain ash. So they tend to look for trees, it seems, as a host plant. And on the right, you see the caterpillar. of the tiger swallowtail, which looks really funny in a way. It looks like on the left it has a big head and eye, and that again is a way for it to scare off some sort of predator bird because it thinks it's looking at them. So it is another mechanism to scare off any sort of prey. But they are gorgeous, the tiger swallowtails. I know you've seen them around. They're beautiful, and they're a good size butterfly too. And this one, I'm trying to think. That one is on a phlox plant. So they will go to non-native plants. It's not like it's just native, but the more native you have, the better it will be to have them. Okay. And here is a giant swallowtail, which is similar, but way bigger than the black swallowtail. Its host plants are Hercules club, or it's called Devil's Walking Stick, prickly ash. It'll go on citrus, lime, herb rue, hop tree, and wild lime. So I don't really have any of those. I don't know if anybody does, but on this picture, it's actually on milkweed, and I think that looks like it's on my swamp milkweed from what it is. I didn't take this picture, but just looking at what it's on. So even though their host plants are the ones where they lay their eggs and the caterpillars feed on, but once they turn into the butterfly, they will go on other nectar plants. There are certain ones they like, but they will go on many different nectar plants because I see the monarchs on other ones than just the milkweed. And so that's why a variety of plants is good to have. This one, did I admit? Oh, wait, I went too far. Hold on. It's not cooperating. Okay. All right. Here we're showing a newly hatched larva and egg case. So on the right side, on the top left, you see that yellow case of the egg, and that's a newly hatched larva. The final larva stage looks totally different. Like I said, there are also websites you can see how they change their looks. The final larva stage actually looks, again, to me like poop. It doesn't look like any sort of something to eat. So even in its final stage, it's trying to keep predators away. Okay, now here's a painted lady. This one I did take this picture. And on the right is the caterpillar. It doesn't look very attractive. It's actually a brownish. It's not as colorful as like the swallowtail and the monarch. It looks more like a stick or part of the plant. So that's another defense. But the painted lady, we do have a lot of those around, and they go on many, many of the plants I have, perennials, and even like I said, the annuals. There's many annuals that they will use. The host plant for the painted lady is thistle, mallow, and common nettle. Okay, so that's some others you might be interested in growing. Like I said, they are all over my other perennials once they're a butterfly, so I know they're around. Okay. And then there's the red admiral. Sometimes you get it confused with the painted lady. Painted lady can see has more of the brown with the orange. The red admiral is definitely more black with like, oops, sorry, I keep hitting that, with like lines of the orange. And the red admiral is I see that a lot around here too. Again, on the bottom right is their caterpillar, which is, darker. It's not really looking like anything that it might be eaten. Again, the host plants are nettle, false nettle, and pellitory, which I don't know what that is. But that's some of the host plants. Now this one, after flying, that's on one of my phlox plants. So it's on, which isn't a native plant, but it does go to that for the nectar. Now, this is another section I have here is plants to attract, other plants to attract butterflies. Okay. Okay, native milkweed and swamp milkweed, which I said before is less invasive, both are hosts for both host and nectar plants for monarchs. If you look on the left, is a native milkweed. It looks different. On the right is the swamp milkweed. Swamp milkweed is got a different flower head. It's more rounded on the native milkweed. On the swamp milkweed, it's more open. It's actually on different type of a stems, but it's very well. I see lots of butterflies and bees on them. So a lot of different insects will go to it. On this one, actually, on the right, I got a picture. There was a bee on the swamp milkweed. This is another in my backyard. This is showing on the left. In this picture on the left is what's Liatris. I don't know if I say it. Ligulus stylus and swamp milkweed. Now that Liatris is a native Liatris. Most of the ones I have bought my native plants from the rescue up in, she's on the Tomahanic Reservoir, Wild Things Rescue. I get a lot of my plants there. And that one on the left wasn't that tall in the beginning, but a lot of them started to get even taller. On the right, you see to the right of the obelisk, that's the swamp milkweed. So you see it has a totally different look than the regular milkweed. It's not as thick a stem. And it does get more, but it doesn't get invasive. Now here's ones, I've had them on my lilacs, the tiger swallowtail, and then on the black swallowtail was also on one of my lilacs. So like I said, later they will go to all these plants. And here's a giant swallowtail. I guess I did get that picture. I did not know. It's on a Joe Pye weed. So this picture on the left is my Joe Pye weed that grew ridiculously tall. I don't know why, but it was started small and each year it gets taller. So I get a lot of butterflies on that after, and that blooms later, so they're there. Well, maybe midsummer it blooms. And then it's like I say, besides the butterflies, I get a lot of bees on that. So again, and here it is on the right side, on the Joe Pye weed. Some other plants that they will like is red cardinal flower, which is a native plant, and coneflower. Painted ladies like coneflowers. So I know even if it's not a native coneflower, they do go there for the nectar. Also, one other thing, if you notice this coneflower, it's a single flower. It's not a multi, some of them have the more fuller flowers, petals. What happens if you have those, it's too hard for the birds or the butterflies to get to the nectar in the middle. So you want just the single petaled cone flowers. You don't want those ones that have like multiple. They're more, they're hybridized. It just makes it harder for them to reach the nectar and pollen. And the red cardinal flower, that's a really beautiful plant. That one does like more moist soil, and you'll see that a lot of times when I go kayaking. You'll see it along streams and lakes. It'll grow because it likes moisture. Another one here again is Liatris, which is called Blazing Star. This is another native Liatris. I have two different types. And that's a phlox. So you've got the yellow swallowtail on the Liatris and the black swallowtail, tiger swallowtail, I'm sorry, on the left, and the black swallowtail on the right. Here again was that Liatris native one I told you, the Liatris ligulus stylus. It's unusual looking. If you look on the right, it looks kind of like the beginning of thistle. But then it gets on the left more of this like hairy looking flower head. It's really pretty. I like it because it's different, and it does last quite a while. It grows tall, like it's almost as tall as my obelisk, but it's a very unusual Liatris, and it is native. So if you want something different, that's a great plant to have. And of course, the monarch is on it, so I do get lots of different butterflies, including the monarch. The giant swallowtails is on here, showing on a zinnia, and a monarch on sedum. So these are like an annual, zinnias. A lot of the butterflies go on the annuals. They do like also, I get dahlias, and I get a lot of them on dahlias. Get them on petunias. some of them do like a tube, but like same with hummingbirds, but they've seen even the hummingbirds go on petunias and things. On the bottom is a monarch on sedum. So, even though it's not considered native, it's another plant that they will get nectar. So you have any of these plants, it's great. Another one that I get them on, both hummingbirds and the butterflies are lantana and petunia, like I said. Also viburnum, not viburnum, verbena. That's another one annual. I a lot of times have in my pots on my over my railing, and I will get both the butterflies and hummingbirds on those. Native orange butterfly weed is a great one to have. It's late blooming, so when other things are bloomed out, it's a late blooming one. You can buy that in the nurseries around, the native nurseries. It's a more of an orange and it's low. It's not as big and invasive. It doesn't get invasive like the other butterfly weeds. I sometimes have a problem with it lasting a few years. I don't know why, but it's really a great one for late blooming for the butterflies to get nectar and pollen. This is another one that's really good. On the bottom, it's narrow leaf ironweed, and that's a native. It's late blooming. The reason I love this plant, it's got like just to look at it, it's ferny, but really it reminds me of, like, I'm trying to think something else, but it's just got the leaves are just soft looking and just beautiful, even without any flowers. And then on the right is what you'll see. All these flowers will appear on this plant. I mean, and this is, like I say, later in September. So that's why you want to have plants that bloom from spring to fall to carry it over for the animals, the birds, and the butterflies and bees, having what they need, the nectar. I love that plant. Now here's my New York ironweed. It's again a late bloomer. It gets tall now. It's even taller and bigger, wider. It gets thick stems, almost like bamboo, just like the Joe Pye weed I have, the big Joe Pye weed. It's like bamboo. Just to the left of it is the swamp milkweed I have. But again, I love the New York ironweed, the flower heads. They look really just these little, purplish flowers. But there's a lot I get on that. I see butterflies, bees. So that's another native plant that you might want to look into. And here's the red admiral on a chrysanthemum. So, your mums are another thing that keeps them going in the fall, late summer, fall. Mist flower is another plant I have. Eupatorium ageratina. It's late blooming. It does spread, but I had all these monarchs on this. It's how tall is it? It's lower to the ground, but it will spread. So if you have an area that you want to fill in, this would be it likes full sun. Now this is the plant I had. You see to the right, I have a little bird bath. This is the size of the plant, how we got it at one point. I have moved it around and split it and given it away. I brought it to my church garden. But all these flowers, you can see all the I think that's, I forgot the name now, but all the butterflies that are on that one, I got tons of these. I had other butterflies, but I got a lot of, even the bees, like I said. This is a great plant. It'll bloom quite a while, but just be careful, it's a little invasive. And besides butterflies, bees love the same plants. Bees, wasp, hornets. I know people don't like wasp and hornets, but they all are beneficial to help pollinate plants, like the butterflies. So as much as we don't like some of them, they do have a purpose. And we really need to work on helping the native bees, which are in decline. The bees that people raise for the honeybees is a different thing. It's not native, but the native bees really need to have a lot of the plants we have that are native. They also, another thing, because I just did a pollinator display at the Hudson Valley Garden Show a couple weeks ago. And I was with the Ecological Gardening. We had a display on this about pollinators. So the thing with bees, native bees will nest in the ground. They don't nest in hives. Bumblebees nest in the ground. They're not in hives. They're not hive groups. They're solitary bees. So that's another reason it's best not to use chemicals or fertilizers on your lawn because of the native bees that are down there. I know when you mow your lawn, sometimes they come out and sting you, but it's still, it's not, we try to stay away from my house and using any of those products. So, in this picture, I didn't take this unfortunately, but I have seen it. Butterflies will do puddling, and they'll get where there's a little moisture in the soil, and they're looking for salt and other nutrients in the mud. They're even looking for fermented fruit they'll go on, dung, unfortunately, but they will look for that. Another thing you can do is just leave a saucer with water and a pinch of salt or a tray of fruit, orange slices. You might even get the Baltimore oil after that too. But when you go to any of these, there's Magic Wings Butterfly Conservancy in Massachusetts, and you see there they have these sticks where they have the orange slices, bananas, because they're looking for that nutrients. But even just a little thing of a saucer with some rocks in it and some salt is good, beneficial, because they do need to have that mineral to help them with their metabolism. Another thing I have here is about, whoops, went too far again, hold on. Flower nectar is a high sugar liquid, and it provides nutrition for the butterflies. They need it to reproduce, and sugar water isn't going there, I didn't have that written right, isn't everything they need to produce offspring. So besides, flower nectar, there's other nutrients that they need. Most of the puddlers are male, and they'll ingest the salts, minerals, and amino acids that the liquefied source provides. And these nutrients are stored in the sperm. And when it's time to mate, the male passes these goodies along to the female as a nuptial gift in his spermatophore. Okay. This is a sex education course on butterflies too. The female now is in possession of the extra boost it needs, and she'll pass it along to her eggs. And the eggs that receive this extra nutrient have a greater chance of success than those who don't. So that's really what I thought was quite interesting about how the male, in taking these salts and minerals, helps the female and the offspring too. I should have said it was maybe possibly PG-13 rated or R rated, but maybe PG-13.
Yeah, this is really an education in the birds and the bees and the butterflies.
Yeah, we should have had a PG-13. The plate does, where I got some of this information is the National Audubon Society Field Guide to North American Butterflies, Peterson Field Guide to Eastern Butterflies, Another Butterflies of North America by Wayne Richard and Judy Burris, Common Butterflies of the Northeast Folding Guide, which is a really nice, those plastic folding guides. I have those for butterflies and some raptors and other things, which is nice because instead of a book, you've got this folded guide, accordion guide. It's plastic, so you can take it with you, stick it in your pocket, and if you drop it, you don't get it messed up. So those guides are really good. Actually, you can get those guides at the Wildbow Junction store. That's in Delmar. He has lots of things for birds and for butterflies. It's not just birds. So he has a great store, and he has a lot of those guides and books. And then I also went to some of these other websites, Butterfly Identification, Butterflies and Moths, and DEC has one, a website, Land Forest, PDF, and Facts of Natives. So that's some other sites. I could try to see, David, if I can pass along some of this to the people, or if we can put it in the chat room or what.
Well, we're gonna post this on our YouTube channel.
Oh, okay,
So eventually we'll put this webinar on our YouTube channel so people can go watch it there and catch it.
okay.
Yeah.
I forgot that we do that. That's good because all the plants I mentioned for the suit and butterflies and these websites and books are, will be helpful for people. So I want to make sure they got it.
Yeah, that's super. If I was better at typing all this, I could type it into the chat, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able
It's
to
a lot.
do all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Did anybody have any questions?
Yeah. If you have a question, we can type it in the chat. If you want to stop sharing, Teresa, that would be.
Okay. Let me do
And
that.
I thought that was really fantastic. I really enjoyed seeing the pictures of the butterflies and the pictures of the